Hi everyone. So recently I moved countries for the second time. The first time I was 18 and I moved to the US for about 4 years. Then I moved back to the UK where I'm from for a year, and now I've moved back out to the US. So I have a lot of experience with moving back and forth, and there's quite a lot that goes into it that you don't realize until the last minute, and you're like, oh no, I forgot to close that savings account that I can only do in person at this specific branch. So basically that got me thinking that potentially a video on this would be useful, and I think if you're watching, then you're probably either thinking of moving countries soon, or you're actually doing it. You're moving countries for a specific job or a specific person, and it's a really exciting time. But also tying up those loose ends is important so that when you get to your destination country, you can just focus on building your life there, and that's all sorted out. So that's what this video will focus on. My first point is, or my first topic rather, is banking/financial. So I would recommend keeping a bank account in your home country if you can. And that's even when you leave. It doesn't have to be several, it just really needs to be one, so that when you come back for Christmas or summer holidays, or to just see your friends and family who probably live in your home country, you don't have to transfer money or deal with transaction fees or anything like that. So for instance, in my case, I have my First Direct account open, and the reason I chose that account is because they have amazing customer service. Pretty sure it's 24/7. They are literally great. And they're really good in terms of they will work with you on an issue, and I have had banks that when you are abroad, they kind of wash their hands of you. So try and just be a bit what's that word? Judicial about what bank you decide to keep open if you choose to do so. Keep some money in that bank account so that when you visit, you have, say, like £500 or however much it is, just so that you don't have to be carrying around cash or, entailing those fees that I just spoke about earlier. My next point is, if you really don't want to keep a bank account open, or you can't, then in that case I would either go for the Apple credit card or the Monzo card. So you may already have, but I would watch Graham Stephan's video on that. He talks about how they don't have any foreign transaction fees, which is literally excellent. And then Monzo, up to a certain point, I can't remember off the top of my head what their limit is, but they have no transaction fees, and they work in so many different countries. I believe at one point they were so popular there was actually a wait list for that debit card. I don't know if that's still the case, but I would definitely look into both the Apple and the Monzo card for if you want to travel back to your home country and you don't want to be carrying around cash and you don't want to deal with transaction fees and exchange rates. Just go with those, either one of those two cards. So moving on from banks slightly and into changing up your money. I exclusively use TransferWise. I think they're literally great. They're much better and much cheaper than a bank. So do not use a bank to change up your money, and do not use a post office. That's even worse. So they'll be really expensive. They won't give you a good rate usually. I would definitely recommend using TransferWise. They will literally give you the rate that you see when you Google GDP to USD or something like that. GDP? Great British Pound, GBP. So, when you Google that, TransferWise will literally give you what Google tells you the exchange rate is. And then the amount that they charge for that changing up of that money is minuscule in my opinion. I changed up the most recent time, I think it was £5,000, that's about $6,500, and they charged me literally £39, which is 40 something dollars. It's really not expensive, and they only take a couple of days to actually get back to you. So that's great, and you can track it where it is. It literally will tell you we're processing it, it's been delivered. You'll see it in your bank account in a couple of days. I have no complaints, and I've literally used them for 5 years, so definitely recommend. Okay, so moving on to friendships. If you plan on keeping in touch with friends in your home country, which, I would hope that everyone does, you're going to obviously want a way to contact them. And there's a couple of different options depending on what is best for your case. So chances are, if you're in Europe, not all of your friends will have an iPhone. And in my case, moving out to the US, where most people have iPhones, using iMessage to contact my friends wasn't really an option. So I chose to use WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. So they were great for calling, and I just used them like intermittently, because if some of your friends don't have Facebook, then WhatsApp is a great option. And they just require obviously data and using Wi-Fi. Then the second option is Skype. So you don't need, or rather your relative will not need data or Wi-Fi to contact, for you to contact them via Skype. So you can top up credit. I usually top up about £5 and it lasts me about 2 months. And then it literally calls their landline, so I'll call using Wi-Fi, and then all they need is literally a mobile network. I think that's the right word. Okay, and then before you leave, when you're saying goodbye to people, it makes sense that people will want to see you for maybe a little bit more time than just a regular meetup, because they're saying goodbye to you. It's very emotional. Give yourself plenty of time. I literally didn't do this. I gave myself 2 weeks, which sounds ridiculous. You think that's more than enough time. It's really not. It gets quite stressful. It's not like you can not see people before you go. So even if you need to say to people like, listen, I can only do an hour, then do that. But like, time manage, meet them for coffee, I did this, like meet a couple of people in one go, in one friendship group. It's probably not the last time you're going to see them, but they do want to spend time with you. Just be conscious that you will have a lot to do. You will still be packing. You might be finishing up at your job. You're tying up all those loose ends. Time management is really key here. Don't be like me, leaving at 6 a.m. the next day and you're saying goodbye to people at midnight the night before. So just be aware of that. All right, we're on to the third topic, which is cultural differences. This is a short one, and in a nutshell, I would say just expect it. I did not expect culture shock or anything of the kind, because I'd visited the US like 5 times before I moved out here. And that's what I hear from a lot of people is, you know, well, I'm not worried about moving because I've visited 10 times or something like that. And that's great. It definitely makes you more prepared than if you've never gone at all to this country that you're moving to. But just be aware that visiting somewhere is definitely different than living. It can be like really small, from like colloquial sayings to bigger things, potentially even values in that society that you're moving towards. So I've noticed that English people are at first potentially a bit harder to get to know, a bit reserved, but when you're friends with them, like you are really good friends with them, and it's great in my experience. Whereas with Americans, sometimes it's very friendly, like, and always stays friendly, but getting to a deeper level can sometimes be difficult. So just a bit of a difference there. So then point number 2, when it comes to cultural differences, I'm not sure if this should be under cultural differences or just something that's new that you experience when you move to a different country. But I've had people be, I guess, kind of intolerant and rude, just because they've either never met someone from England, or, you know, they think it's okay to like make fun of your accent and stuff like that. Sometimes people can be ignorant, but try not to take it personally, and usually it's rare. Most people are really friendly, really kind and empathetic that, you know, you're moving to a different country. So that's the good side, but just be prepared for the bad side. Lastly, packing. I hate packing. When packing, pay attention to airline fees for baggage. I have made this mistake with Norwegian. You think that you're getting a really good deal, and then you realize, I'm checking 2 bags. What have I done? It's like £100 to check 2 bags, and this flight is officially now more expensive than, for instance, like a British Airways flight or a Delta flight or something. So consider your checked baggage when you book your flight, and look very carefully at what carry-on bags you're allowed, if any, like what checked bags, stuff like that. Just be really aware of that. I lost my train of thought. Oh, point number 2 is that if your family members are visiting you in a few months, keep that in mind, because when you're packing, because when I moved in December, and I knew that I would be seeing my family not only in January but also in May. So I didn't bring much summer stuff at all. I prepared for a Tennessee winter, and that's what we've got, but my family is going to be bringing my summer stuff in May. So if they're coming specifically to visit you, then they can just give you that stuff that they've packed in their checked baggage. So just think ahead to, you know, if you know anyone who's visiting your destination country, maybe they can ship you some things. If you can, definitely try and do it that way, because believe me when I say that shipping stuff, like even if you find a great service, is going to be a lot more expensive than people packing that stuff in their case and checking that bag with the airline. I think I was quoted at the very least 100-ish pounds to send something from London to Tennessee, where it was say like $60 or $70 to add a second checked bag. And some airlines, you know, especially if you're moving to Australia or something, they'll let you have 2 checked bags for free. Usually I would say checking a bag with the airline is always going to be a lot cheaper than shipping it yourself through any kind of courier service at all. So all in all, I think that is all that I wanted to talk about today. Like that's all the tips that I could come up with. But if you are moving to a new country, I'm really excited for you. I think it's really, really fun when you move. Really exciting. There's loads of opportunities. You meet loads of new people, maybe starting a new job, everything like that. If you're watching this and you're like, oh my gosh, you didn't include this point and this point, it's so obvious, then definitely put it in the comments so then like other people can hopefully get some more advice from loads of different sources. Please subscribe and like this video if you did enjoy it, and I'm hopefully going to be coming out with another one next week. My aim is to post every week, hopefully like useful content about moving countries, living in a different country, my experience here, traveling. I'd really like to upload some travel videos for the trips that I have coming up. So I think that's it, and have a really good day, and I will see you next week.